Gosh.
Yeah. Okay, I guess that's almost our sign to start. Uh, as a true descendant of Frankfurt Jews, I was waiting for the clock to turn 7, but it is 7. So my 800 years of Yekish lineage kick in.
Can I open with a joke that my aunt just told me? She said, "What do you
Sure.
get when you cross a chassid and a yeki? You get Mashiach who comes on time." That's
You know, so,
I like that.
something we could all use a leitmotif at this point.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm just going to take a few minutes with your permission to open. It's a pleasure to see all of you and to welcome you to this conversation about the Jewish Center's upcoming mission to Israel. And I'd really like to begin by extending heartfelt gratitude collectively to our indefatigable committee chair, Tehillah Blech, who has done just beyond incredible work on very short notice, trying to pull together a moving and impactful and assisting mission to Israel. Our fellow committee members, Ilana Kamenetsky and Grant Silverstein and David Weinstein, for their, again, tireless efforts to make this happen for everybody. And if I may, I'd like to begin by sharing a brief personal anecdote that really shapes my perspective on solidarity missions. About 7 years ago, in 2016, when terror attacks were blessedly rare, and we each knew by heart the names of any victim and the names of anyone kidnapped, I was the faculty advisor to a high school group, a group of students who were involved in Israel advocacy. And on January 8th, 2017, you may remember there was a car ramming attack on the promenade at Armon HaNetziv. And a group of young soldiers disembarking from a bus. There were 17 wounded, and there were 4 young people in their 20s killed, 3 young women and 1 young man. And my students decided to write a personal letter to each of the families. And they looked up the young people online and got details and wrote these beautiful, if somewhat grammatically incorrect, Hebrew letters. They hung them outside the lunchroom in the school. 300 of their fellow students signed in all different colors, and we mailed them off, in the ether to each of those 4 families. Less than 2 weeks later, a large envelope arrived at school. It was from the family of Yael Yekutiel from Givatayim, one of the young women who fell. And in the envelope was a beautiful picture of her. She was a lovely young woman, a radiant young woman. There was a copy of a mission statement she had written out for the members of the youth group where she was a counselor. There was a photocopy of an award that she had won in high school. And there was a heartfelt letter from her parents thanking us and telling us, I remember this vividly, I see it on the page, Talino at Zeba Salon. We hung up your letter in our living room. It came toward the end of the Shiva. And everyone who arrived, we showed them and said, look, we're not mourning alone. Hundreds of Jews in America are mourning together with us. This was in January, so 2 weeks later, we had winter break, and 3 of us were in Israel, and we decided to go knock on the door of another family in Ma'ale Adumim, the family of Shir Hajjaj. We knocked on the door. We told them who we were. Their eyes welled with tears. They brought us in. They also had the letter hanging on the wall. They called down their neighbors to come sit with us. It actually made it into the local paper, but really experiencing how meaningful it was for people who underwent loss to feel that they were not alone, that we were Am Echad, and more than that, Mishpacha Echad. And I think of the imagery of God appearing to Moshe at the sneh, Imo anochi b'tzara, when you are suffering, I am with you. And I think if nothing else, the act of showing up and being there and expressing we are family together in this is probably the predominant goal of a mission, such as the one that we are planning. There are 2 other components that I think carry equal importance. One is just the chesed component. I'm part of a WhatsApp group of different needs from different Israeli individuals and organizations. One of them is just from farmers. Today, Ami needs 20 people to help him harvest avocados near Netanya.
Maybe
you know,
bring up the chickens, Raise.
yes, I did. I sent one to Alana. Drawer needs 50 people to help at his chicken coop early in the morning. You know, every sector of society, schools, farms, every sector of society has been impacted, and there's a need for assistance. And obviously the emotional support for all those families of the Chatufim, families who are, evacuated from their settlements. There are hundreds of thousands. I read the number 300,000. I'm not sure it's accurate, of people who are dislocated, living away from home. There is so much that needs to be done. So along with the solidarity, there'll be powerful components of, hands and feet helping, and hearts helping and assisting. And the third and final component that I think is not as intuitive, but perhaps equally important, relates to a famous quote from Elie Wiesel. I had the pleasure of meeting him in the twilight year of his life and spending a few days together and discussing this idea that to hear a witness is to become a witness, right? October 7th, and as Brett Stevens so eloquently put it, October 8th, were cataclysmic watershed days in Jewish history. And the events of those days are seared right into our minds. They're seared on our hearts. But going and hearing from those who experienced those events, meeting with first responders, meeting with families of the Chatufim, meeting with people from those settlements. We're hoping to get security clearance to visit some of the settlements in Otef Aza. We already have the clearance to go visit the army base at Shura, where they're charged with identifying each one of the Kedoshim. I don't like the word victims. By going and by hearing, we become witnesses. And one of the things that was mentioned in the email sent out, some of us will be able to attend this mission in person, and the rest of us will be attending in spirit. And those attending in person will be representing all of us. So as Tehillah speaks about the mission and goes through the details, we will send along our prayers, we will send along letters, we will find the needs of the places we are visiting and bring, physical material. There are different sponsorships that are available. We'd like to make a barbecue for soldiers. There's a way that any of us, at whatever amount we're comfortable with, can participate in this mission, even if we cannot attend in person. So for the solidarity and the power of that, for the chesed, for the witnessing, right? It's our honor to coordinate and plan this together with you. And what I'm going to do now is hand over the screen to our friends, the Falks, who recently returned from a mission, to share a bit about the power of that experience. After that, Tehillah will go through the particulars as they are, right? It's somewhat fluid, of the mission and its planning stages, and then there'll be time for a Q&A. So, Mr. and Mrs. Falk, I hand it over to you.
Thanks very much. To put it simply, Vicki and I are absolutely awed from the time we just spent in Israel. So we went officially with a KJ mission. We spent time with them, but we also coordinated our own programs, seeing a series of friends and family throughout Israel. It was inspiring. And in fact, I really must say, maybe my operative word is very humbling, to witness the incredible self-sacrifice and resilience that we encountered across a broad spectrum of Israelis.
I admit that I was one who was hesitant to go. I didn't want to burden the country with my presence, and I wondered if the funding that's going towards the trip should be better spent to the most valuable tzedakah agencies that are all hard at work. And yet, as if coming to Israel in their hour of need, people actually stopped us on the street and said to us, "Why are you here?" And my answer was always the same: l'chazek et atzmi and l'chazek etchem, to strengthen myself and to strengthen you. And you will get that question, and they are more than delighted that we are there.
He's a better storyteller than I am, but let me set the stage with a couple of vignettes. We met in the command center of the Gaza region with a general whose own son was killed in battle on the first day of the conflict. Yet the general stayed to lead his battalion for a full 8 days before he returned to his family to mourn and bury his own son. In Ofakim, a town in the Gaza area, you should realize the Israelis lovingly refer to the Gaza area as the South. We looked into the eyes of a grandmother who hid for 7 hours under the solar panels on her roof, hiding herself and 7 children and grandchildren listening to the Hamas terrorists murder everyone below her, including her own son. And we just looked into her eyes and were just amazed. We met with relatives who have 10 family members in IDF in Sal now, sons, sons-in-laws, daughters-in-laws, grandsons, who left their own border towns to return to their units. A leading lawyer in a Tel Aviv law firm took me into his conference room. I didn't know why. We were meeting in his office, showed me a long conference room table completely covered with photos of all the hostages in large size. He then turned to me and said, and he's a very unemotional type, but said to me very emotively, he's never seen such motivatia, to use his word, motivation in Sal, in the army. 150% of the reservists called up showed up for duty, which means 50% more than were actually asked to come, volunteered to come to their units. The self-help and the help, and you alluded to it, of the Israelis is mind-boggling. They will do everything and anything. They form groups on the spur of a moment. We met with a friend of ours who's a dean of a business school in Israel who took a leave of absence to coordinate full-time 400 of these self-help and help groups. We witnessed firsthand in Gaza the incredible barbarity of the Hamas terrorists. From there across the broken fence to Gaza, we could see the smoke that day of the conflict. And then we heard a loud boom of rockets overhead. First, we were quite puzzled what to do, though we'd been given instructions, but we couldn't move that quickly anywhere because we were in the open. We heard a loud boom, as I said, and it turned out that that boom was, in fact, the Iron Dome doing its work rather than the rockets themselves imploding. There's really no way to prepare yourself for the Kfarim, the South. It's like walking into hell. It's like a pogrom screaming out at you silently. The blood and gore are mostly gone. They have removed that. But the devastation is testimony to the savagery of the terrorists as they burn people in their homes. I spoke on Zoom the other day with an Israeli who we couldn't calendar meeting. And he said to me, you know what? He is emotional, and he's a very commercial kind of person. He said, you know what? He has emotional ups and downs every single day. His kids are serving in Sahel. He said they went on the first couple of days to these places that I'm describing when they were still raw. And he said it was so atrocious, his own kids won't describe to him what they saw.
It's worth noting that many of the Gaza border villages were populated by exactly those people who dreamed of Arab and Jew living side by side. The invaders' intel came from precisely those workers who came across the fence daily with work permits to earn better wages by working within the Israeli moshavim. They knew the location of the armament storage. They knew which household had children. We visited Sderot, a major city in the south that's now a ghost town. The buildings, offices, apartments, and stores, they're empty. The traffic streetlights are still working. But it felt like being on a movie set, waiting for the call for action. The silence was palpable. The terrorists had been there. But you will meet these Sderot inhabitants. They are the Minufim, a new word to me that I wished I had never learned. It means the displaced. They, like much of the southern population, were whisked up north and are now populating the hotels. I'm sure you will meet them. They are graciously received, giving lodging, food, clothing, and programming. The amount of Israeli volunteerism is positively astounding. The average Israeli, if he is not in the IDF, is helping out with a multitude of ways, and you will be contributing the same. That includes a whole cadre of grandparents who admit to being exhausted. They are on childcare duty since in Israel, both parents can be called up. The Israeli South accounts for a major portion of Israel's agricultural produce. The area is developing state-of-the-art healthcare facilities and industrial base. Standing there, you feel like no media report can tell you that Hamas and the other organizations of Islamic Jihad must be defeated and neutralized in that part of Israel is ever again to be inhabited. Israel simply cannot relinquish that turf. On your mission, you will feel in your bones the immensity of your role in getting the word out. While there, you will have opportunities to engage with the Chayalim, the soldiers who have been in combat. Some will remain silent. Others will want to talk. Your job is to listen and, as Raisi said, to remember. I sat with a soldier who, with a pained expression, said to me, "What am I supposed to do? An enemy comes at me holding a child, not to protect the child, but to protect himself." Hamas does not hold by the Geneva rules of engagement. Only with the eradication of Hamas do the Gazan people stand a chance of regaining their own sense of humanity. Shura was most impressive and most impactful. This is a rabbinic military base. It's where all the bodies go, both IDF and civilian victims. On October 7th, they ran out of ambulances. They were arriving from the south in caravans of vehicles, including ice cream trucks. In Shura, two jobs are paramount: to identify the deceased and to prepare the bodies with great humility and honor for burial. This is a new level of Chevra Kadisha. I learned that soldiers are buried in their mangled uniforms, not in shrouds. Hashem should see their fate and witness our need for rachamim, for compassion. In addition, another victim of the destruction is handled in Shura. These are the damaged Torah scrolls that are collected and rehabilitated. Every IDF unit wants a scroll. These are some of the scrolls that will return to service. They get a special coating on the parchment because they will be used in the worst of conditions, and the ink is a special, more resistant ink. Kedusha is felt in every part of this army base.
The phrase "seeing's believing" is never more apt. Candidly, now that we're back, I feel again somewhat disconnected from the pain, the resilience, and the strength in Israel. The only way to feel it, I'm going to be candid, is to be there and to come back and to witness and to advocate the cause, which we all need to do. We can do so much more energized as having been there. As Bret Stephens said, this is not merely a Mideastern problem. This is a European problem, and as we crushingly know, is an American problem. Let's go there. Let's come back. Let's be energized. Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai. Never in a long time have the diaspora in Israel been so unified together. Chazak ve'amatz.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was
Thank you.
really powerful and moving. And I don't know how I'm going to get through the mission, let alone this talk now, because it's just all very emotional. We have a really jam-packed schedule that we're working on, and we're in the process of actually paring down what we're going to do because we have so much packed in here and we have to just figure out. There's a lot of things in flux, but I would like to paint some broad strokes for you to give you an idea of what we have planned and the things we'd like to do. People will be checking in Sunday at the hotel. So we're going to have a Sunday night dinner at the hotel together. We have a few choices of speakers that we're working on, but we hope to have a speaker address us Sunday night at the hotel for dinner and hit the ground running Monday morning. Monday, we are planning to go down south, and there are Raisi is working with Rabbi Peretz on the way down, maybe on the way down south to have a briefing there. But we thought it was important to start the mission going south and kind of reminding us why we're all there and what, and witnessing to set the tone for the rest of the trip. So there's a massive Kol Chabad warehouse where they pack things up for Sderot. We will meet with local rabbis and residents in Sderot. We will see the police station there and hopefully tour through Be'eri if we get the clearance for that. But that will be, day one is heading south. and then coming back to Jerusalem for dinner. It'll be a very full day, and people will be tired, and that's going to be day one. Day two is going to be in Jerusalem. And we hope to include visits with refugees, not refugees, evacuees, families that have been evacuated from their homes and placed in hotels and in retreat centers for this purposes. So we're going to meet with these families. We hope to pay a visit to Har Herzl and hear from somebody there, see the most recent soldiers that have been buried there, and hopefully there won't be recent ones, but the most recent ones that we'll get to see there. Migdal Or is another charity that we have at the Jewish Center been very involved in helping out. We sent 250 plus duffels there. They're arriving on the 17th. So I'm working with Sharon Haberman, who has very close connections there, because they have a new facility in Jerusalem. And we might get to see that. We might get to unpack the very goods that we ship there. And part of the whole circle of giving and continuing with the giving is actually bringing back the hundreds of empty duffels so that we can start all over again and send them back full with more donations as they're needed. So also at the Museum of Tolerance, they are doing Thank Israeli Soldiers, and they're packing up packages for the soldiers. And that's another stop that we hope to make in Jerusalem while we're there. And we would like to take everybody to the Kotel as well at some point, because it's a short trip. And if you're just coming in for the 4 days, we want to make sure that you get a chance to go to the Kotel. Maybe Tuesday night is a night that we would have dinner in town at a restaurant. And all of this is fluid because I don't know exactly how many people are on the mission. So we can't pick a place until we know how many people we're reserving for. But we hope to have a full bus, and we hope to fill the trip this week, which I'll get to that in a minute. Wednesday, we're going to go up north, and this should be our longest day of the trip. There's a connection from the Jewish Center. A former family member has a strawberry farm and fields, and the orchards need help. So we're going to do some agricultural work on the strawberry fields in the morning. And then we're going to have a visit at Migdal Or with Rabbi Grossman. And then we're going to head up north and get a briefing on strategic issues on the northern border. We might get a visit to an Air Force base. We're trying to work out all the details, but at some point that night for dinner, we hope to host the Chayalim on the base there for a barbecue and have dinner with them and host the barbecue. And that's Wednesday night. And then Thursday is going to be our day in Tel Aviv, where we will do Bikur Cholim with soldiers that are in long-term rehab, injured soldiers, wounded soldiers. We have gotten the clearance, as Razi said, to go to the Shura Rabbanut Army Base and meet with Rabbi Bensi Mann to see the facility and to see the work that the folks described that they're doing. The Chevra Kadisha side, the Sifrei Torah side, that's all happening at Shura. We will also go to Kikar Chatufim, where in Tel Aviv, where they set up where the relatives of the people still kidnapped are there. And hopefully we won't have anyone to meet, but that's where they congregate, and we can meet with them and go to the Hamal there, where we meet the Chaval HaChatufim, where the PR team is in charge of all the information that they're putting out about the hostages and ways
Just
to
to
help.
translate, right? Oh, I was going to translate Chatufim as hostages for anyone who wasn't aware. Just that, right? That and their gathering center in Tel Aviv.
So thank you. So that's and then coming back Thursday night to the hotel. So the mission officially ends Thursday night. So it's 1 day south, 1 day in Jerusalem, 1 day north, and 1 day in Tel Aviv, just as the broad strokes go. While we're there, also, then some people are staying for Shabbat. So Friday would be, we'll have a couple of opportunities listed. It's not going to be with a bus, but we might still be able to go volunteer, or maybe it's a short day. Shabbos is very early. That's a day for shopping and spending money there. it's going to be a really impactful mission. And I was not planning to go to Israel December. I was just there in August, and I kind of feel like, how can I not? This is a moment in history that we want to witness and participate if we can. So if we can participate in person, that's amazing and awesome. And if you can't, that's also, there's also lots of ways you can participate in spirit. The simplest way being, we have set up a mailbox in the lobby of the Jewish Center. And we're going to start to let everybody know that we were going to take letters to the Chayalim. And there's so many stories coming out from wounded Chayalim that have had letters on them that believe that these letters of tefillos of people from here really helped save them. So it's a really powerful thing to do, and it doesn't cost any money and take very little time, but just putting, we'll encourage as many people from the shul to write letters, and we'll bring all these letters with us. That's like a baseline contribution that we really hope everybody participates in. Aside from that, there will be other fundraising opportunities of things that we would like to do on the mission, and the more that we can raise in advance, the more we can do. So we're going to get some ideas of numbers. We're going to reach out to Migdal and see what do they need now. We're going to reach out to the Hamal that's taking care of the Chayalim and see what do they need. It ranges from boots to Swiss Army knives to beef jerky that they can't get any in Israel, and we'll just have to look at it to see what do we buy in Israel that we can put money into the economy there versus bringing things, if it's toys that the kids need, or Sharon said we can get an ice cream truck and bring it one day to the kids the evacuee kids that really have had just a lot of upheaval in their lives. And that's a lovely thing to do. We'll want to, host as many Chayalim for the barbecue as we can, and that will take, additional funds too. So we're going to have a list of ways that you can contribute and donate. And, there are things I'm sure that are going to come up on the spot that Rabbi Levine can, have a fund of something to be able to contribute if we find a need. One other thing I just wanted to mention is that we're also looking into adopting a community in Israel, and whether the Jewish Center does it or a combined bunch of shuls from the Upper West Side do it, it's really a lovely way to connect. And if that's the case, there's one community we were looking at that was originally evacuated from Gush Katif in 2005. So now they got evacuated again. They weren't directly hit because they weren't on a main road. So Hamas didn't have a way to get to them, but they were all evacuated, and they're again living in upheaval. And it would be really powerful to just connect with this community. So if anybody has any high-level speakers that they're connected with that they want to get in touch with us and tell us about, very high level, because we have some really amazing things planned, but a lot of people are also tentative just because of the situation in Israel, and things are just in flux. So we're trying to be as nimble as we can and as thorough as we can, but I would welcome whoever can come to join us and really have an amazing experience together.
Thank you so much, Tehillah. One question that I saw came in on the chat came in from Becca, which was how to contribute towards something like the barbecue. So will the email that you send out kind of have that comes out from the show have a link? And I want to reiterate, these contributions can be of any number, right? And
we're going to set up a form with each sponsorship opportunities with the amounts, and we have to just get that out as a next step.
And there can be a general one too. So no matter what what you want to contribute, you can contribute to a general, any amount will help, and we will bring it, with us with, shliach mitzvah money.
Taylor, did you want to speak to a deadline of commitment?
Yes, so we're going to have to finalize. I'm holding as many rooms at the hotel as I can, but there are a lot of other missions going. It's a popular week, and at some point we're going to have to release the rooms. So at this point, we were taking a deposit, and then I think that the time for that has passed. So anybody who's looking to sign up will have to sign up with a full payment. So I spoke to the travel agent today. The flights are limited and they're, as El Al is the only one flying, but he said he can still get people flights if they call him. I know some people are, yeah, so he can definitely do that. So the other thing I will say is that the way, I just found out also that the way this is structured is that the tour operator is not going to be taking payments, but the shul will be taking the full payment. So I'm working with Aaron to prepare a bill for anybody who paid a deposit and owes the balance. But because it's such a big number, we're asking people to pay either by ACH, like a bank transfer, or check, not to put on their credit card, because it'll just end up costing the shul too much in fees. So this is, just a real cost for the hotel and the all the things involved. So just, and to also just talk broadly, it's going to be the David Citadel Hotel, 3 meals a day, a guard and a guide on, a licensed tour guide and an armed guard on the bus with us every day, and all the logistics getting us to where we're going is all included in the mission. And if you're on the flight, the group flight, Saturday night going or Thursday night leaving, there'll also be airport transfers. So that's what's included in the mission.
Tehila, one of the things that came up was sitting with the people who had been displaced. They are being taken care of, and like you said, they're getting their clothing and things, but they're a little embarrassed to be wearing these things that don't represent them. And we discovered that getting them, what do you call shopping cards?
Yeah, that's
what's
yeah.
it called?
So there are that's one of the things on my list also, to have these. What that does, I guess, is it also gives them the dignity and the ability
That's
to go
it. Yeah.
choose for themselves, and
Right.
it also puts money into the Israeli economy. So
Right.
we would like to buy, that'll be on that list of opportunities, gift cards. I think we just have to come up
Yeah,
with
Right.
and
Gift cards.
there's a poignant story. We were sitting having coffee with some friends of ours, and this 10-year-old, very nice displaced girl sort of came up and sort of just sat with
She
us.
sat down and
Just
she
sat
said
down.
to me, you speak Hebrew, but you look funny. I don't look Israeli. And she says, but I don't look right either. These aren't my clothes. And she was very conscious of, and she was fine. I mean, she was wearing some sort of a gym suit, a velour top and bottom. And she was embarrassed. It wasn't her clothes, but it was very cute.
So I inquired as to what would be an appropriate amount for a gift card to give to people, and the response I got was anywhere between 100 and 500 shekel. So it could be $50, $100 ish, that we're giving out. But I don't, I have to first see how much money we can raise for these gift cards. Maybe we'll have $50 denominations, and if they're families, they could get 2 or whatever it is. But that is a really special way also to help these families. Like you said, because it does put money in the Israeli economy, and it gives them the license to choose and be a person,
Yeah, they're real people. Yeah, exactly.
I would not go around in a velour sweatsuit. I can appreciate it.
Her mother came over. It was kind of funny. Her mother came over to apologize for her just plopping herself down. I said to Bernard that, it's amazing how early Israeli chutzpah just kicks in, She just came in, this young girl sat down, and her mother also was apologizing. She was perfectly finely dressed, but she was also apologizing for her clothing. It's just not something that they would pick. So that gives them a little, self-pride in what they're doing.
For sure. There's different donating opportunities might speak to different people. I think some of the children's facilities there need sports equipment and they need art equipment. So when I was talking to Sharon, I said, I mean, maybe the ice cream truck sounds frivolous. And she goes, you can't say the word frivolous, because really you can't take anything for granted. They've been displaced, the kids are traumatized, and that really would bring so much joy. And it's not like a big ticket thing, just to have an ice cream truck pull up and just get a cone. It really can be impactful that way too. So there's no shortage of ways that we can contribute. And we'll try and do for as many people as we can. I don't know if we have other questions. Did you check the chat?
Tehila, can I have your direct phone number just, if I want to call you later? Is that all right?
Sure, I'll put it in the
It's
chat.
Carrie. Okay,
I
thanks.
recognize your voice. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions?
Hila, how many are signed up right now?
27. 27. Our bus holds 52. So we need to save 2 spots for the guard and the guide. And so I said to Robert, so that leaves me with 50. She said, yeah, you could go 50, but that just doesn't leave you any wiggle room at all. So I think we're shooting for 48. And then, like Carrie had asked me, or other people are asking about joining on a day, on a day by day thing, which I can only do if we have the room on the bus. And sometimes we might only know that if we are a full bus, if somebody says, oh, I'm not going to join you Tuesday, then I know I have a spot on Tuesday. So we're trying to be nimble, and we will be as accommodating as we can, because we want to make sure as many people can experience it. But, we just have to work with what we got. Yes, Steve, there will be a WhatsApp group chat. So I think when we signed up, we asked for people's phone numbers for the WhatsApp, and we will create that for sure.
I have a question, Tehila.
Yep.
I don't know that this will happen, but if I, let's say, go to something on Monday and feel that this is really meaningful for me and helpful to me, can I opt to do the same thing on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, assuming it's in Jerusalem?
Right. So that wouldn't be Monday. Yes, you certainly can. I mean, as long as the facility, if you go to the Hamal and you say, oh, I could, I volunteer for 2 hours, but I could really spend the day here. You can opt off the bus Wednesday and let me know that. And I'll say, oh, I have, your guys' spots to offer to somebody else who might be asking. As long as they're able to accommodate you and you could get there back and forth on your own, by all means,
Where is the Hamal in Jerusalem, by the way?
There's more than one. The one I spoke to, there was a connection for Lisa Rockman's cousin is working in one. And just to give you an idea, when I called her to see, this girl she's a college student. So she said, as of now, college is supposed to resume December 24th. So if that does, then then they don't even know if they'll be in business then. I think there's at the Museum of Tolerance, or where's the other one? The KEH.
There's one also at like the architecture school. That's the one that Shalem College, if you send money, it goes through with Daniel Gordis, he's been talking about that one. So I think that's the main Jerusalem one.
Here, I think a main way of raising money too is, which we did when Susan and I ran with the missions for the Second Intifada 3 or 4 years, that people who couldn't go, who had sufficient funds, gave us the amount of money that they would have paid to go to help people who could not afford to go on the missions. And I think so if someone has the funds and they can't go, I think that's a good selling point to give the money that they would have given to pay to go on the mission.
Right, Arthur, and that's a terrific initiative. But in those days when you did the mission, we also had 3 buses and unlimited. We had 150 people, so we're really limiting it to 50 people. So if we don't sell out by the end of the week, then I would say that's a great thing. But I think that there will be enough people that want to go, that can afford to go and want to spend the money, and that anybody who wants to donate, we could really use the funds for the soldiers or other.
Right. But it's a good way of raising the money.
Thank you. Thanks.
And there were people who gave it for 3 and 4 years. It wasn't just a one-shot thing, because we had.
I'll call you later. I'll call you later for those names.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had a question that someone sent to me directly, Naomi, regarding the name and phone number for the travel agent. Was that on the flyer? Do you want to repeat it for anyone who?
It's on the flyer. It's Plain Talk Travel. Hold on, I don't have the flyer.
You want to throw it in the chat, Tehila, so people can take it down?
I'm gonna look for it and put it in. I think it's on my
I
phone.
can, if there are any other questions, I can try to look it up while, just look at a copy of the flyer while you are
No,
fielding.
I just sent the flyer to somebody, so I have it here, but they are, um, okay, I'm gonna put the number in now, but it's in the flyer and like, oh, thank you.
The
Okay.
guy's name is Moshe, by the way.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you
Robert
go.
Levine just put
It's
it in
very
the email.
nice.
Yes, yeah, he is very nice, and he said he's able, they're still able to do it. They're sitting on these flights all day, every day, so they're able to, yeah.
Is the flight you're all going on December 24th, that Saturday night at 1 o'clock on LO?
So I'm going a few days early, but the group flight is Motzei Shabbos. I
Right,
think leaving from,
Newark.
no, there's two flights. One leaves at 9:50 and one leaves at 11. So he was putting everybody, I think, on the 11 o'clock flight, or
Yeah.
anyway, they come in within an hour of each other. So if the early flight just waits an hour, they can get picked up and taken all together. That's the Saturday night flight. That's
Yeah.
the group flight, and Thursday night is the return flight, the group flight.
Okay.
But again, there's like 3 different flights Thursday night. So if people had a preference to Newark or JFK, that he handled with them directly. It's just a matter of getting everyone to the airport at around the same time to catch their flight.
Moshe told me, I spoke with him already. He told me there are 6 flights every day between Kennedy and Newark. There are
Oh,
6 flights every day.
Right. So, and there are 2, like when we were looking at it originally, we said on the return, would it be like in the afternoon? We said, well, if we did make it in the evening, then everybody, there's several evening flights around the same time. Maybe it's 11 p.m. or 1 a.m. or
Yeah.
but like the late night flights.
Yeah.
What time do we expect the bus to leave roughly? So I don't know that there'll be a group minion unless we see how many men are there and opt in for a group minion. I don't know where the closest shul is, but because allowing people to daven with a minion if they want, that we won't be leaving super early. So really don't hold me to this, Steve, but not before 8:30 or 9. Like, I don't think we're gonna leave unless like the one morning that we're going to the orchard, we have to be there earlier because of that.
And possibly on Monday, if we can get in to see Rev Doron on our way down, Rev Doron Paris, who has one child in captivity and the other one whom he married off, we're trying to arrange that. And then that would mean that Monday might be a day where we go and daven at Yad Binyamin in order to see him there. So we're still waiting to hear back on that.
Right, but the goal is not to leave at early. Rabbi Levine just wrote in the chat that there's a shul that's a 7-minute walk away. Gail asked about flights Motzei Shabbos. I am on a flight Motzei Shabbos, and he was able to get me on the flight. Panina's on that flight. I think Judy and Esty are also on that flight. So there's a bunch of us staying for Shabbos.
I'm also on that flight.
I'm on.
December 31st one, right?
Correct. Yeah. So depending on how many people from the mission are staying Saturday night, if it's a sizable number, maybe we'll just try and arrange that's not part of the transfers, that extent, that a little add-on stay that we're doing. Maybe we'll arrange for a van or something to take us back to the airport, and we can pay for that. But we're all there together for Shabbos. We can have our meals together for Shabbos, and there will be opportunities listed for Friday that people can opt in or not opt, but the only thing is we don't have a bus Friday, but they'll all be local Jerusalem opportunities, or maybe some chicken farm that'll come pick us up because we're doing the drudgery there.
It all comes back to the chicken farm.
All about the chickens.
I don't know. I got a chance at picking sweet potatoes.
I mean, I heard grapefruits were another great way to go. So my friend, my daughter picked beets, strawberries, and strawberry picking is backbreaking. So she said, I don't know that I'll have you picking the strawberries,
Yeah.
maybe pruning the fields, so pruning is more in line with what people can tolerate and, with our aging backs. But yeah, Machne Yehuda Friday, obviously, like that's, or just going into town, or so there will be one night where we have a dinner in Yerushalayim, not in the hotel. So TBD. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a great trip. If there are any other questions in the chat, or if you wanna just come off of mute.
I just want to say that Tahila makes this all look very simple as she went through those few days of itinerary, but she's really been working around the clock. And again, the entire committee, Ilana and Grant and David, and of course, Rabbi Levine for his guidance and wisdom. But I hope by the time we get there, we'll be looking back at a war and be in a time of peace, but just that our mission should be one that elevates us and elevates Israel and brings the merit that we so desperately, desperately seek.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
joining,
you. Good
everybody.
night. Thanks, everybody.
you.
Bye,
Amazing
Raquel.
weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks
And
for all the good work.
Will the recording of this Zoom be available?
Thank you.
Yes, yes, there is a recording and it will be
Recording.
available.
Well, I was on, the train while I was listening, but in case I also want to share it out, but thank you.
Thank you.